Ridge Racer Type 4, R4, is a classic racing game released by Namco for the PlayStation in 1998, Japan, and 1999, North America and Europe. It's the fourth main entry in the Ridge Racer series and is often remembered for its arcade-style racing, stylish presentation, and soundtrack. R4 focuses on high-speed, drift-heavy racing, where players must master the art of cornering by drifting around sharp turns. The game features a more refined and accessible drift system than previous titles, making it approachable for both newcomers and fans of the series. There are two distinct driving styles. Drift, where players can initiate long drifts easily. Grip offers more realistic handling, requiring precision for tight cornering. The game includes several modes to keep players engaged. Grand Prix mode, the main mode of R4, where players race through a series of increasingly challenging tournaments, earning new cars and upgrades as they progress. Time Attack mode, race against the clock to set the fastest lap times. Versus mode, a two-player split-screen mode for head-to-head racing. Upon release, Ridge Racer Type 4 received critical acclaim for its impressive graphics, addictive gameplay, and engaging soundtrack. It remains one of the most beloved titles in the Ridge Racer series and is considered a classic of the PlayStation era. It's remembered as a perfect mix of arcade racing with a more polished, mature design, making it a must-play for fans of retro racing games. The development of Ridge Racer Type 4, R4, was a significant project for Namco, as it was the fourth main entry in the successful Ridge Racer series and the last on the original PlayStation. Released in 1998 in Japan and in 1999 elsewhere, R4 marked a culmination of the team's experience with the PlayStation hardware and aimed to push the boundaries of what was possible on the platform. Here's a look at the development process. 1. Namco's experienced team. Namco's internal team, which had worked on previous Ridge Racer titles, was brought together for R4. The development team had a strong pedigree in arcade racing games, having worked on games like Ridge Racer and Rage Racer. This experience allowed them to refine the series' drift-heavy mechanics, balancing the game for both arcade fun and home console play. 2. Focus on story and presentation. One of the key innovations of R4 was its emphasis on story and team-based gameplay. For the first time in the Ridge Racer series, Namco introduced 4 different racing teams, each with its own narrative and characters. This was a deliberate move to give the game more depth than the typical arcade racer. The team wanted to create a more immersive experience by introducing team managers with dialogue, giving players a sense of progression and attachment to their team. 3. Pushing PlayStation's hardware. The developers worked hard to optimize the PlayStation's hardware to create smooth graphics and a high frame rate, as well as detailed car models and environments. They wanted to make R4 stand out visually, even as the PlayStation approached the end of its life cycle. Using a mixture of real-time graphics and pre-rendered backgrounds for cutscenes, they managed to create a visually polished game despite the PlayStation's hardware limitations. The graphical improvements included high polygon count for cars and environments, advanced lighting effects for the time, including reflections on cars, slick UI and menu design, giving the game a stylish and polished look. There are a few interesting facts about Ridge Racer 4 that not everyone knows. Ridge Racer Type 4 was one of the few games to support Namco's Joy-Con controller, which was bundled with some copies of the game. The Joy-Con featured a steering wheel-like dial in the center that provided force feedback, offering a more immersive racing experience. While it was an interesting innovation, it didn't gain widespread popularity beyond this title. R4 offers an incredible 320 cars to unlock, a number that was massive for a racing game at the time. The game's combination of multiple teams and manufacturers created this extensive roster. To unlock all the cars, players had to complete multiple playthroughs, choosing different teams and manufacturers each time. The game's funky, electronic soundtrack is considered one of the best in video game history. It features a blend of genres including jazz, house, and electronica. The soundtrack was so well received that it led to a standalone soundtrack album release, with fans continuing to appreciate its stylish and futuristic vibe. R4 was one of the early games to fully integrate Sony's DualShock controller functionality, utilizing both analog sticks for precise control and offering vibration feedback during crashes and collisions. This added a tactile dimension to the gameplay, making the racing experience more immersive. At the time of its release, R4 was considered one of the most visually impressive games on the PlayStation. It featured detailed car models, smooth animations, advanced lighting effects, and a stable frame rate. Namco's use of the PlayStation's hardware was a technical milestone, helping the game stand out among other titles on the platform. Ridge Racer Type for R4 had solid commercial success, though its sales were not as high as some other major titles of the PlayStation era. The game sold approximately 2.4 million copies worldwide, which was considered strong for a racing game at the time. While it wasn't a blockbuster hit on the level of other Namco titles like Tekken or Soul Calibur, it performed well for a niche title aimed primarily at arcade racing fans. As with previous Ridge Racer titles, R4 was particularly popular in Japan, where it had a strong fan base. The game's unique team-based campaign and large car roster resonated well with Japanese players. Sales in North America and Europe were respectable, but not as high as in Japan. The game appealed to PlayStation owners who enjoyed the Ridge Racer series, but by 1999, the market was shifting toward more realistic racing games like Gran Turismo, which had become a massive success. One of the reasons why R4 didn't sell as well as some of its competitors was the rise of more simulation-based racing games like Gran Turismo, which launched in 1997 and became a genre-defining hit. Gran Turismo offered realistic car handling and customization, drawing a different audience compared to R4's arcade-style racing. The game's opening cinematic is one of the most memorable parts of R4. It features a mix of slick animation and CGI, showcasing a dramatic race between a fictional Tarazi car and an Saluto rival under a night sky. The intro is set to the track Urban Fragments and has become iconic among fans, exemplifying the stylish and futuristic aesthetic of the game. Namco partnered with designers to create original cars for R4. The fictional manufacturers Saluto, Lizard, Tarazi, and Age Solo each have their own distinct styles, and their cars reflect a variety of inspirations, from sleek European sports cars to futuristic concept vehicles. The game's car designs were praised for their creativity, adding to its sense of flair compared to other racing games of the time that focused on real-world cars. One of the unique technical features of R4 was its dynamic lighting system that mimicked the passage of time during a race. While not a full day-night cycle in real time, some tracks start at dusk and transition to night as the race progresses. This was visually impressive for a PlayStation title and added a layer of immersion to the racing experience. The game still has a dedicated fan base, and Ridge Racer Type 4 is frequently cited in best of lists for both PlayStation and racing games. Its blend of style, gameplay, and innovation has earned it a place in retro gaming history, and it continues to be fondly remembered by fans and collectors alike. The soundtrack, in particular, has achieved a kind of cult status, with many players still revisiting the music years after the game's release. All in all, Ridge Racer Type 4 stands out not only as a polished racing game, but also as a stylish and innovative title that pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the original PlayStation. Its combination of deep gameplay mechanics, artistic design, and unique flair continues to make it a favorite among retro gaming enthusiasts.